Trial resumed. Jury not present.
The court said, "Note your appearances, please."
Mr. Finkel said, "Good morning, Your Honor. Ryan Finkel, Justin Horton, Juliana Murray, and Micah Ferguson, who will be joining us shortly for the government. We're joined at counsel table by Special Agent Robert this morning."
Mr. Skirrick said, "Good morning, Your Honor. Scott Skirrick for the defendant, and I will be joined shortly by Mr. Kamraju, Ms. Schroff and Mr. Barkin, and we're at counsel's table with Mr. Gov't."
The court said, "Please be seated. Is there anything before we start today?"
Mr. Finkel said, "Not from the government."
Ms. Schroff said, "No, Your Honor, not from us."
The court said, "So if you'll have the witness ready to take the stand by 8:59.
Mr. Finkel said, "We'll do that, Your Honor."
The court said, "Thank you."
Recess.
The court said, "Please get the jury."
Jury present.
The court said, "Please be seated. Good morning, jurors. Thank you again for coming back exactly on time. We're going to continue with the cross-examination of the witness. Ms. Lee, remember that you're still under oath."
Ms. Schroff said, "May I proceed, Your Honor?"
The court said, "You may."
Lee. Cross-examination continued. By Ms. Schroff.
Ms. Lee, let me direct your attention to Defense Exhibit 60497. Could you publish it, please? This is Leigh-Ann Lee, correct?
Yes.
And she goes by the name of Cornfield's sister, correct?
Yes.
You did not approve of her work product, correct?
Sorry.
Who did she work for?
I work for Miles Gov't.
Who did she work for?
She worked for Miles Gov't.
Which company did she work for?
G-Fashion.
And you were not a fan of her design at G-Fashion, correct?
Sorry.
You were not a fan of her designs at G-Fashion, correct?
Not her design.
Now, you testified also that you were the leader of, you may take that down. Thank you. You were the leader of G-Translators, correct?
Yes.
And you supervised somebody named Xian Sheng, correct?
Do you mean Xian Sheng?
I didn't hear her.
Do you mean Xian Sheng?
Xian, Sheng.
Yes.
And he complained about the way you treated him in the group, correct?
Once.
He left the group, correct?
Yes.
And he left because you mistreated him, he said, correct?
No.
He left with 17 other people who complained about the way you treated them, correct?
No.
17 people left from your group, correct?
Yes.
All at once, correct?
Some come back.
I could not hear you.
Some come back.
I did not ask you if some came back.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "Overruled. Did 17 leave?"
The witness said, "Yes."
And there was a long discussion about all of these issues, right, during a meeting, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Gov't was part of that meeting, correct?
Yes.
And they were part of the meeting, correct?
Yes.
And you were part of that meeting, correct?
Yes.
And during the meeting they complained, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Gov't told everyone, look at yourself first before complaining about others, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, after this meeting that Mr. Gov't had with these individuals, some of them came back, correct?
Yes.
And even after they came back, other people still complained about how you treated them, correct?
I don't know.
Let me show you what is marked as a defense exhibit, and it will get pulled up just momentarily. This is Exhibit 60499. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
Who is that?
Sarah Wei.
And Sarah Wei worked with whom?
With Miles Gov't.
Sure. Which group did she work for?
VOG.
And that is Voice of Gov't, correct?
Yes.
And she was also somebody who started as a volunteer translator, correct?
Yes.
And you did not get along with her either, correct?
No.
And then you were part of the Iron Blood group, correct?
Sorry, who?
Was she part of the Iron Blood group?
No, she left.
She left the Iron Blood group? I didn't ask you if she left, ma'am.
She left before Iron Blood group.
before she left, she was part.
No. Iron Blood Group established after she left.
So she was never part of the Iron Blood Group?
No, never.
And you did not like her, correct?
No.
Okay. Now, let's move to the videos that you were shown. Let's talk about the videos that you were shown during your direct, right? You remember those?
Sorry.
You testified on direct with Mr. Ferguson, correct?
Yes.
And you were shown, I believe, 8 videos, correct?
Which video?
You were shown videos on the screen, and you testified about them, the broadcast?
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes. Which one?
Let's start with GXVI 191.
Yes.
You remember testifying about this one?
Yes.
And this video is how long?
Nearly 2 hours.
Nearly 2 hours, correct?
Yes.
And you translated this video as part of your translation duties, correct?
Yes.
And you did that, you said, as part of request from Miles Gwa, correct?
We translated all his broadcast videos, yes.
So let's pull up 192T, please. And if we could just make it larger. Do you recall being shown this document?
Yes.
And let's see if we can start with this paragraph that says, this is a verbal agreement, correct?
Yes.
You translated, not this document, but you translated the video that has this language in it, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay. Could you read that for the jury what it says?
This is a verbal agreement I want to reach with the Rule of Law Fund. And according to the basic requirements of New York State for C3 and C4 public welfare nonprofit organizations. Now as long 70% of all the money in it was donated by Wingui, it shouldn't be called Guo Wingui. It was donated by Guo Wingui's family foundation and related companies.
Thank you. And even though you didn't watch the complete video, you translated this as well, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, overruled. Which translation are you referring to?
Ms. Schrofa said, I'll rephrase. You watched the complete video, correct?
Yes.
And you translated the complete video, correct?
I don't remember.
But you remember testifying that Mr. Gwa trusted your group to do the translations, correct?
Yes.
And you translated every broadcast, you said that, right?
Not full. We not translated the full video. We translated the clips, but I don't remember this clips.
So you don't remember if this clip is even part of the video. Is that your testimony?
No, this is part of the video.
I'll move forward. Thank you very much. You may take that down. Now, you testified minutes ago that you listened to all of Mr. Gwa's broadcast. Is that correct?
Yes.
And during his broadcast he discussed, did he not, the seizure of his assets, correct?
Yes.
He discussed the seizure of his assets in Hong Kong, correct?
Yes.
He discussed the Pax litigation, correct?
Yes.
He talked about somebody named Shan Wen-jian, correct?
Yes.
He said he was a CCP spy, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Gwa stated his belief that it was CCP who had instigated the Pax litigation, correct?
Yes.
And he had also broadcasted that he felt he was forced into declaring bankruptcy, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, hearsay.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
He said his bankruptcy is CCP persecuted.
Exactly. He said he was forced into it, correct?
Yes.
And he said that he felt forced into it because an unreasonable time had been imposed for him to pay back the money, correct?
I don't remember.
And you testified, did you not, about the unfairness of the bankruptcy trustee, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to hearsay. He said.
Ms. Schrofa said, it's not introduced for the truth of the matter.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, it's clearly hearsay.
The court said, step up, please.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
The court said, what is the purpose of these statements that you're eliciting now?
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, the purpose of it is to show that the government's theory of Mr. Miles Gwa lying in his broadcast is not true. In fact, He said all kinds of things on his broadcast, including his financial situation. So when they put in that he was rich, he had a ton of money, it's equally responsive under the rule of completeness, number 1, to show that he was candid to all of the people watching his broadcast. But, number 2, it is irrelevant to any one of us eliciting this information whether or not Mr. Miles Gua's statement in itself is true or false. The fact is that he made the statement. It reflects his state of mind, which is an exception to the hearsay rule, and it is not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. They elicited that it was the PACS litigation that drove him here. They elicited information about the PACS litigation, and they elicit only clips from the broadcast. To complete that picture is the reason those questions are being posed. And it's 2 questions, this one and the next one, and then I'm done.
Mr. Ferguson said, if it's not being offered for the truth, we're okay with it coming in. Your Honor can make clear to the jury that those statements are not being offered by his defense lawyers for its truth.
Ms. Schrofa said, we have no objection. If the court deems it appropriate to instruct the jury that this is being offered to show Mr. Gua's state of mind at that time, and it's all it should be considered for.
Mr. Ferguson said, just offered not for its truth because she's referencing it wasn't just that he said it. The last question was he testified.
Ms. Schrofa said, I never said testified.
Mr. Ferguson said, he can't testify through the lawyers. So I think it would be appropriate to tell the jury the references in what he said out of court are not being offered for its truth.
Ms. Schrofa said, we have no objection.
The court said, that is what I will do.
Ms. Schrofa said, and I said, you testified, meaning she testified. It's right here. It's real-time read back. You should read it.
Mr. Ferguson said, if I misheard, I heard he.
The court said, all right. Let's go back.
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, members of the jury, the statement that the witness said came from Mr. Gua and the statements that are, I expect, to be forthcoming from Mr. Gua are not offered for the truth of the matter asserted. You may continue.
Ms. Schrofa said, I think I have to reapproach.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor. Respectfully, I ask the court to say they're being introduced to show Mr. Gua's state of mind at that time.
The court said, I don't think it's an appropriate instruction.
Ms. Schrofa said, Okay. Thank you.
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, you may continue.
By Ms. Schrofa.
He also stated, did he not, that he felt that the bankruptcy trustee was acting improperly, correct?
Sorry, acting what?
Improperly, not properly.
He said the trustee is CCP spy.
And he also said, did he not, that the trustee had made $385 million in legal fees, correct?
I don't remember.
You received a subpoena from the bankruptcy trustee, correct?
Yes.
When you received the subpoena, you were in Australia, is that right?
Yes.
And you are familiar with the fact that a subpoena is a legal document, correct?
No, I don't know.
Did you look at the subpoena?
No, Miles Gua asked us to throw away.
I understand Miles Gua asked you to do all of these things. I understand that. My question to you was, did you read the subpoena?
No.
So you got a subpoena. You did not read it, but somehow or the other you knew it was a subpoena.
Yes, because from Paul Hastings.
From who?
From Paul Hastings.
From Paul Hastings?
Yeah, the trustee legal firm.
So you knew it came from a legal firm, correct?
Yes.
A legal firm has lawyers, correct?
Legal firm of trustee.
But they have lawyers, right?
Yes.
The lawyers sent you a legal document, correct?
Yes.
You told Miles Gua that you got a legal document, correct?
Yes.
And to tell him that you got a legal document, you have to know what the legal document is, correct?
I don't know, just legal document. Any legal document Miles Gua said throw away.
Any legal document?
Yes.
So, if you got a legal document about your daughter, you would just throw away?
The court said, sustained.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you.
Is it your testimony, ma'am, that you did not open the legal document?
Yes, not open.
You did not open it?
No,
How did you get the document, by the way?
by the mail.
Which mail?
FedEx.
Excuse me.
FedEx.
FedEx?
Yeah,
Federal Express?
yeah.
You got a Federal Express envelope from a law firm named Paul Hastings. You took the envelope and you threw it in the garbage. You did not even open the Federal Express envelope?
Yes,
You never opened the envelope itself?
yes,
Federal Express asked you to sign for receipt, correct?
yes,
Did you sign the receipt?
yes,
So you knew that you got the document. I'll take that back. Paul Hastings, you testified, is a law firm, right?
yeah.
And you did not at all. You were not at all curious why a law firm was reaching out to you?
Sorry.
I'll take that back. Now, there came a time, did you not, that you knew you were subpoenaed by the trustee, correct?
Yes,
And you knew the name of the trustee, correct?
yes,
And you knew how to get in touch with the trustee, correct?
yes.
How did you find out the name of the trustee?
Miles Guo broadcast.
So,
On broadcast, Miles Guo says the trustee is a Luke Despens. And his program explained the bankruptcy case in the broadcast.
so in the broadcast, Miles Guo told you that there was a trustee at Paul Hastings, correct?
Yes, and he also asked the translation task to translate this legal document for him.
And so you knew what the legal document was, correct?
Yes,
So you knew it was a subpoena, correct?
yes,
And you knew that's a legal document, correct?
yes,
And you know that if a legal document is issued by someone who is from the CCP, it still remains a legal document, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, "Objection, Your Honor. She's testifying."
Miles Guo told us.
The court said, overruled.
Miles Guo told us to throw away.
The court said, very compound question there, so if you'll just take it in bites.
You testified on direct yesterday, right?
Yes,
That, even if you're targeted by the CCP, you cannot scam. That was your testimony, right?
yes,
So even if you're sent a subpoena by CCP, you cannot avoid it, correct?
that time Miles Guo said throw it away. That time I totally trust him, so I throw it away.
Okay. So you totally trusted him and you threw it away, correct?
Yes,
So there was a time when you thought you could just ignore all legal documents because Mr. Guo told you?
yes,
Anything he told you, you would do, correct?
yes,
Anything?
yes,
When Mr. Guo told you not to pay the person in your farm for the G Club membership, you didn't listen to him, correct? You paid them that $10,000 back anyway, right?
yes,
So when you didn't want to listen to Miles Guo, you were able to not listen to Miles Guo, correct?
that's different.
No. My question is, you didn't listen to Miles Guo, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, "Your Honor, she can't just say no. She has to ask a question."
Ms. Schrofa said, I didn't ask if it was different.
Mr. Ferguson said, "She can't argue with the witness."
The court said, so you need to, if a question calls for a yes or no answer, you'll answer yes or no, or I don't remember, or I don't understand. You understand? You don't add additional information.
The witness said, okay.
Mr. Ferguson said, "Your Honor, some may be difficult to answer yes or no. It doesn't mean she can argue with the witness."
The court said, yes, that's right. There is some questions that are difficult to answer yes or no. And the witness is a very intelligent individual who will be able to discern whether she can answer yes or no. Go ahead.
By Ms. Schrofa.
He also asked you to move to Abu Dhabi, correct?
Sorry.
Miles Guo asked you to move to Abu Dhabi, correct?
Yes,
And you said no, correct?
wrong.
Did you move to Abu Dhabi?
Because later he sent someone else, not me.
Let's try the question again. He asked you to move to Abu Dhabi, correct?
Yes,
You didn't go, correct?
no,
You said no, correct?
wrong.
And after you said no, he sent someone else, correct?
I didn't say no. I said I prepared to go, but finally he sent someone else instead of me.
You recall meeting with these prosecutors and discussing this very topic. You discussed this topic with the prosecutors, correct?
Yes.
And you told these prosecutors while you were meeting with them, correct? That you never said yes or no to Mr. Gov't about going to Abu Dhabi, correct?
No, I didn't say.
You then told these prosecutors that you didn't want to go for family reasons, correct?
No, I didn't say.
And that's why you didn't go, correct?
No.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Just 1 second, Your Honor, please. Do you recall telling these prosecutors that in reality you could not go to Abu Dhabi because you had family in Australia?"
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained.
You then told them, did you not, that you were asked to go there permanently, and you said no?
The court said, sustained.
Now, according to you, Miles Gua's broadcast took you to Paul Hastings, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form.
The court said, what do you mean took you to?
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm happy to rephrase. I was trying to move along. You found the trustee at Paul Hastings, correct?
Not me, Miles Gua said.
Without Miles Gua, you would not know where that trustee was, correct?
Yes.
And so Miles Gua told you where the trustee was, correct?
Yes.
And then you contacted the trustee all on your own, correct?
That's after I wake up.
Oh, yes. You woke up and then you went to the trustee, right?
Yes.
Right. But the only reason you found the trustee is because he told you where the trustee was, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
Ms. Shrofa said, I don't think there was ever an answer. You then contacted the trustee all on your own, correct?
Yes.
You didn't tell Mr. Gua I'm going to contact the trustee, right?
Yes.
And then you talked to that trustee without anyone else ever finding out, correct?
The court said, how could she possibly testify as to what others knew? She can only testify as to what she knows.
Nobody from the Himalaya Alliance broadcasted that you were talking to the trustee when you reached out to him, correct?
I don't understand. Sorry.
In August of 2023, you reached out to the trustee, correct?
Yes.
You did not tell Miles Gua, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, we've covered this.
Yes.
You didn't tell Long Island David you were reaching out to the trustee, right?
Yes.
You told Long Island David?
I couldn't tell anyone Alliance.
Exactly. You told no one, right?
Yeah.
And you started talking to the trustee in August of 2023, correct?
I don't remember.
Now, you testified yesterday about social media, correct?
Which social media?
You testified about Mr. Gua's YouTube account, correct?
Yes.
You testified specifically that YouTube had suspended his broadcast ability, correct?
Yes.
And because they had suspended his broadcast ability, he couldn't broadcast, correct?
He started broadcast other platform.
Right. That was correct was Gov't, right?
No.
Which other platform?
Twitter, Instagram, live stream and then Go Media.
And because of the issues he was having with broadcast, he thought of creating Gov't. Is that correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, she can't testify as to what another person was thinking.
He told you what he was thinking, right, on the broadcast?
Mr. Ferguson said, he told her something. I don't know if she can get inside of his head, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. You can answer. Did he say what he was thinking on the broadcast?
He said he wants to establish a media platform.
If you use that mic, we will all be able to hear you, please.
He said he's going to establish a media platform like YouTube, Twitter.
He said he wanted to establish a media platform?
He will.
Okay. And he told everyone in the broadcast that it would take time to build this platform, correct?
I don't remember.
And he told you that the platform would have to be, not you. Told people in the broadcast that the platform would have to be such that it would not be vulnerable to disruption attempts by the CCP. Correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, I just object on hearsay grounds, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Can you repeat again? Sorry.
In April of 2020 is when you first heard of Gov't, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Gov't announced it in a broadcast, correct?
Yes.
He announced he wanted to make or set up a platform to broadcast, correct?
No, April he said it's going to a private placement for GTV. That time GTV already existing.
And he said he wanted it to be just like Twitter or Facebook, correct?
Yeah.
And he told everyone on the broadcast that that was because YouTube had suspended his abilities, correct?
I don't remember.
And he said, did he not, that he was going to have a platform that had no censorship, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, "Objection, Your Honor. We're getting into offered for its truth."
The court said, if you'll step up, please.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I'm pretty sure this transcript is in evidence. They put it in.
The court said, so you're objecting on hearsay grounds?
Mr. Ferguson said, "Yes."
Ms. Shrofa said, off a transcript that's in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, "You want to go through the transcript, that's fine."
Ms. Shrofa said, we'll be here all day.
Mr. Ferguson said, "And we certainly don't want that. We are just concerned about expanding the state of mind purpose for these sorts of questions into," he said this. He said that. They're testifying on cross. There's some discretion.
Mr. Kamraju said, Your Honor, they introduced the transcript without requesting any limine instruction.
Mr. Ferguson said, "That's because we're allowed to do that."
Mr. Kamraju said, once you put it in, we're allowed to reference it.
Mr. Finkel said, which transcript is it?
Mr. Kamraju said, transcript of April 2020.
Ms. Shrofa said, you want us to go through the whole transcript? We're happy to read it out loud, the whole thing.
Mr. Ferguson said, "We're interested in an efficient examination. I don't want to keep this sidebar longer. There's a line at some point about things Gw't said continuing to come in this way."
Mr. Kamraju said, I'm trying to understand the objection. We are not allowed to refer to a part of the transcript that you already put into evidence.
Mr. Finkel said, not unless you use your client's statements to testify as though he were speaking. If you want to offer statements for his state of mind. The state of mind exception is I feel scared. I feel this.
Ms. Shrofa said, it's in evidence. I can have her read the entire transcript.
Mr. Finkel said, please don't yell at me.
Ms. Shrofa said, that's the federal rule of evidence.
The court said, here's my ruling. Mr. Gw't needs the opportunity to assert a defense, and these statements will come in the words of a brilliant jurist, for what they're worth.
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, you may continue.
By Ms. Shrofa.
You testified, correct, Ms. Lee, on direct examination that Mr. Gw't, according to you, talked about Israeli technology to create this platform, remember that?
Yes.
And when you were, as you say, working for Miles Gw't, you helped him find such IT experts, correct?
Not this Israel technology. That's all from supporters.
But you helped place advertisements for IT experienced people, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that he was looking to find engineers to build this platform, correct?
Yes.
You knew he was interviewing people to build this platform, correct?
Yes.
And you knew he wanted to find the most qualified people to build this platform, correct?
I don't know.
You placed the advertisements, correct?
Yes.
And you were hoping that good candidates would apply to the job description, correct?
Yes. The jobs, all the resume, I send it to.
I'm sorry. There's no question.
All the resume.
The court said, there's no question before you.
You wanted me to know all the resumes you got you sent to Miles Gw't?
Yeah.
Okay. How many resumes did you get?
Many.
Many, right? Because it was a real job posting, right?
Yes.
And he reviewed all those resumes, right?
I don't know.
Now, you also testified on direct that you wanted to invest in GTV, correct?
Yes.
And you wanted to invest, but your investment was part of the pool, correct?
Yes.
And your investment was with other people. How many other people do you recall?
About 5.
5 of them, right?
And MHM.
Was that 5 plus you, or 4 plus 1 that made 5 including you?
5 plus me.
And you put the investment in your name, is that right?
Yes.
Your name, your personal name, right?
Yes.
Even though it was pooled, you decided to put it in your name?
Everyone decide.
Oh, everyone decided to put it in your name?
Yes.
Okay. And you did that because you've testified several times yesterday because you trusted Miles Gov't, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to characterizing what she said.
Yes.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
When you met with these prosecutors, you told them you were a cautious investor, correct?
Yes.
And you told them that you thought that this platform would really work when they took down the CCP, correct?
That Miles Gov't said so, I believed.
So you believed that the platform would be most successful after the CCP was taken down, correct?
Yes.
And Miles Gov't believed that too, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, so she can't testify as to what he was thinking or believing. Sustained.
Let me show you what is marked in evidence. And maybe I'll just pull up the transcript rather than the video, is GX26T. You remember this document, ma'am?
Yes.
And not this translation. But you and your translator volunteers translated the video underlying this exhibit, correct?
I don't remember.
Well, let's see at page 2 where it says, please carefully read. You see that language?
Yes.
And what does it say, ma'am?
Please carefully read through all the documents to be signed for investment.
That's what Miles Gov't said in the broadcast, correct?
No, in the private video.
In the private video?
Yes.
But you did everything Miles Gov't ever asked you to do, correct?
Yes.
And he asked you to please carefully read through all the documents, correct?
Yes.
You can take that down. Now let's look at Government Exhibit K5. You recognize this document, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Schrofa said, may I have the jury see it, please? If we could see the use of proceed chart. You were shown this particular page by Mr. Ferguson here, correct?
Yes.
And you were asked questions, were you not? If this chart indicated that Gov't money would go into a hedge fund, correct?
Yes.
And you said it did not, correct?
Yes.
You received this document, correct?
Yes.
You never read it, correct?
Yes.
So no matter what it said.
At that time I didn't, yeah.
You never read it at that time, correct?
Yeah.
You invested without reading it, correct?
Yes.
And that's because Miles Gov't said so, right?
The court said, are you asking whether Miles Gov't said that she should invest without reading it?
Ms. Schrofa said, I take that back, Your Honor. I withdraw the question. You never read this document when you invested, right?
Yes.
So if this document had said 100% of this money is going to go to the hedge fund, you would not know, correct?
Yes.
Because you never read it?
Yes.
Let's show you Government Exhibit 165. 65, I think. Sorry. 65. You testified about this document, right?
Yes.
Is it your testimony, ma'am, that you never read this document either?
Before I sign, I didn't.
I can't hear you.
Before sign, I didn't.
Before signing it, you didn't read it?
Yeah.
Let's just look at the top. This page that's before you.
Yeah.
You see some of it is in red?
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
That's some update.
So, it's a track change in this document, right?
Sorry.
It shows you the changes, correct?
Yes.
And if I could go to the next page. You see on the top there is again a thing over there?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
There's some changes.
So when you're looking at this document, because there are changes there, you know it's a draft, correct?
It's not draft.
It's not a draft?
No.
So these changes that are highlighted in track does not tell you it's a draft?
No. This is the version I signed.
I didn't ask you if you signed it. It's possible to sign a draft version, right?
No.
You said you never looked at anything, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection. That's not what she said.
You never read anything, right?
Yes.
So you wouldn't know if it's a draft?
But this we've been told to sign it.
I'm not following. Somebody told you to sign a draft?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
I don't know if it's draft or not, but to me it's a final because they asked me to sign it.
Who's they?
The Alliance.
The Alliance asked you to sign it?
Yes.
How many people are in the Alliance?
I don't know.
So how many people called you to tell you to sign this?
There's a customer service team for this new GTV platform.
But the customer service team is there to shoot down customer-related problems, right?
No, they send contract to us, email to us.
Right. They sent you an email, correct?
Yeah.
Just like Netflix sends you an email. You can open it or disregard it, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
No.
The court said, overruled.
No? If they send you an email, you have to open it?
Yeah, because we've been told that's the new GTV contract. We need to sign.
But there is no email that says you need to sign, correct? Ms. Lee, let me try it this way. You downloaded your emails and gave them to the prosecutor, some of them, correct?
Yes.
You gave them many documents, correct?
Yeah.
And you never gave them any document from the Alliance telling you that you must sign this document, correct? Let's go to the bottom of the document, shall we? Did they tell you that you must sign this electronically, or that you must sign it by printing it out and hand signing it?
Both. You need signature and print your name.
That's not my question.
So please repeat your question.
You said you had to sign it, correct?
Yes.
The Alliance told you you must sign it, correct?
Yes.
There's no email from the Alliance saying you must sign it, correct?
In Miles' Gov't broadcast he said there's new GTV to replace the old GTV. So everyone need to sign if you invest the old GTV.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, that's non-responsive and move to strike.
The court said, overruled. You may continue.
So now it's no longer the Alliance. It's Miles' Gov't broadcast?
Alliance listened to Miles' Govt's direction.
But before you told me that it was the Alliance who told you, you must sign?
Yes.
So who from the Alliance told you that?
Mr. Ferguson said, we've been over this, Your Honor.
Ms. Schrofa said, I'll move on. Can I go back to the top of the document? This is the document where you testified on direct, correct? That Mr. He was identified as a director, correct?
Who? Sorry.
Mr. Ferguson said, misstating the testimony, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained.
Was Mr. He identified as a director in this document?
Sorry, who?
He. Horan. Was he identified as a director in this document?
Not in this document.
Right. So let me show you what is also in evidence as GXVI 34 and 35. Let's put them up side by side if we can for the jury. Ms. Lee, you testified about both these documents in your direct testimony with Mr. Ferguson, correct?
Yes.
Before you testified about these two documents, you and Mr. Ferguson reviewed them with each other, correct?
Yes.
When he was preparing you for testimony, correct?
Yes.
And the document on the left, right, that says 34 at the bottom. You see that is the email to which document 135 was attached, correct?
Which one?
I cannot hear you.
Which part? Which part are you talking about?
Which part am I talking about? On the left is the email that you received, right?
Yes.
And in that email chain the document on the right was attached, correct? It was an attachment to the email, right?
Yes.
And you received that email, right?
Yes.
And we know that because the email address shows LANMU, which is the beginning of your online name Mulan, correct?
Yes.
And this document is from a lawyer, correct?
Yes.
And you can tell that because at the bottom it says it is from a lawyer, right?
Yes.
So if we can just scroll down and make sure that you got this email from a lawyer, right?
Yes.
And the document that was attached is to your right, correct? So if we could just take a look at the attachment that you received is on your right, correct?
Yes.
And you received it cause you opened this email, correct?
Yes.
And the document that you looked at, right, which is 35 in evidence, right?
Yes.
Is the resolution for FMV identifying Howren as the sole director, correct?
Yes.
So let's see. You got the email. You opened the attachment, correct?
Yes.
And then let's scroll down on the right-hand side, all the way down, just the whole document on 35. See. It says right there, right, who's the sole director, Howren he, correct?
Howren.
It's there, right?
Yes.
What's his title?
Sole director.
And you got the attachment, right?
Yes.
Now, are you saying that you never looked at this attachment either because Miles Gw't told you not to, or did you look at this attachment?
I look at it because this lawyer asked me to sign.
So you read it, right?
Yes.
When you read it, you knew who the sole director was, right?
Yes.
Who's he the sole director of? FMV, right?
Yes.
This document is sent to you in September of 2022, September 10th, correct?
Yes.
And that is 7 months after the FMV confidential offering memo the government showed you, correct?
I don't remember.
You may take that down. Thank you. Could I have Government Exhibit 135, please?
Mr. Ferguson said, is this 6-135? I'm not sure what 135.
You see this document, ma'am?
Yes.
And you see the section where it says, is hereby resolved that?
Yes.
Could we just highlight it for her? This document resolved one person being removed as the company's authorized representative, correct?
Yes.
And then another person is substituted in, correct?
Yes.
Who is that? Tian Hao, who is that?
Hao Tian is one of Miles Gw's supporter.
Is it a he or she?
She.
Where does she work, do you know?
In New York.
Did you work with her, ma'am?
No.
Did you interact with her at all?
Yes.
And you and she didn't get along either, correct?
No, we get along.
You got along with her? Let me show what is marked as 6051.
Yes.
Who is that?
Hao Tian.
And your testimony is you got along with her, correct?
Yes.
And she was put in as the representative, correct?
Sorry.
The document that I just showed you noticed her as the representative, correct?
Yes.
And did you read that document?
I just tried to find where I sign. Where is my name I could sign?
Your name wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't sign that document, right?
Yes.
But you read it, right?
Yes.
We can take that down. Let me move forward and talk to you about G-Fashion, okay?
Okay.
G-Fashion has a current website in 2024, correct?
Yes.
And you've checked it, right, in 2024?
Yes.
You still check the G-Fashion website, right?
Now I don't.
So sometime in 2024 you checked, but now you don't?
Yeah.
And you knew that G-Fashion at one point had an office in Los Angeles, correct?
Yes.
And from Los Angeles they moved to New York, correct?
Yes.
And then from New York it moved to Milan, Italy, correct?
Yes.
And G-Fashion is now run by Lei and Li, who you testified before, correct?
Yes.
And it is still a functioning company now, correct?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
When was the last time you looked at their website?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
I don't know.
Let me talk to you about NFSC, okay?
Yes.
You recall testifying on direct, did you not, that Mr. Gov't announced the NFSC, right?
Yes.
And there were other people who were part of the announcement, correct?
Yes.
And you watched it, correct?
Yes.
You were very excited about it, correct?
Yes.
Because according to you back then you believed in Miles Gw't, correct?
Yes.
And you no longer do, right?
Yeah.
And the announcement was made. Mr. Bannon was there, correct?
Yes.
There was some gentleman named Daihong who was part of announcement, correct? Remember the soccer player from China?
I don't know who you're talking about. I do apologize. Apparently, I bungled his name. Let me show you what is Defense Exhibit 6512. You see that photograph? Yes.
Who is that?
Haidong.
And who is he?
He's one of Miles Guo's supporter and also used to be the chairman of Rule of Law Foundation.
He was also a famous soccer player for China, correct?
Yes.
Went to the Olympics for China, correct?
I don't know.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I move that into evidence, please.
The court said, no objection.
Mr. Ferguson said, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit 6512 received in evidence. By Ms. Shrofa.
He was a part of the announcement as well, right?
No, he just read the statement.
Could I have it published to the jury, please? He read a statement in support of NFSC, correct?
Sorry.
He made a statement on June 4th in support of the NFSC, correct?
Not that he made. He just read out the statement.
Tell me what is the difference?
It's not he produced this statement. He just read it.
How do you know he didn't produce it?
Because I know we prepared, our group member prepared.
Your movement prepared his statement?
Yeah. So other supporter write up this statement, and we prepare and send it to him copy. On that day, June 4th, he read out.
Right. And he made his changes, and then he read out the statement?
No changes.
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form.
The court said, overruled.
And he now lives where, in Spain, correct?
Yes.
And he's still a Miles Guo supporter, right?
Yes.
And he spoke in support of the NFSC, correct?
The court said, sustained.
Ms. Shrofa said, I'll move on, Your Honor. You can take it down. Thank you. Now, the NFSC, Ms. Lee, was the concept for a new type of government in China. Is that fair to say?
Please say it again.
The NFSC was a concept for a new type of government in China, correct?
At that time, I think it is. At that time, I think it is.
So according to you today, the new federal state of China is not a concept anymore, correct?
Yes.
It's not a concept?
It's a scam.
It's a scam according to you, correct?
Yeah.
So if anyone believes that there could be a new federal state of China is being scammed, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, sustained.
The new federal state of China as a concept promoted democracy in China, correct? That was the goal, right?
We thought.
No, you thought. You can't speak for other people's thinking, correct?
I thought at that time.
You thought. Right. You don't know what any of these people here are thinking, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, excuse me, Your Honor. Can she answer the question?
The court said, counsel were directing the questions toward her, not toward the gallery.
I'm asking her. You don't know what anybody else thinks about the new federal state of China. Only what you think, correct?
All his supporters think the same, think this way.
What way? Your way or his way?
What Miles Guo said about new federal state of China.
Right. But you can only testify to what you are thinking.
At that time I believed him.
Ma'am, you've said that many, many times.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, objection to the commentary.
The court said, don't testify.
Ms. Lee, do you know what everybody else thinks of the new federal state of China?
Mr. Ferguson said, can we move on, Your Honor?
The court said, everybody else. Who are you referring to?
Ms. Lee, you can only speak to your opinion of the new federal state of China and not the opinion of other people, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection. We've covered this. Asked and answered.
The court said, asked and answered. Sustained.
You joined a farm, correct?
I think Miles Guo picked up as a farm leader.
I really cannot hear you, ma'am.
Miles Guo picked me up to be a farm leader.
Right. But before he picked you up to be a farm leader, you were part of a farm, correct?
No.
You were not part of the translator group farm?
That's not a farm.
It's just a group?
Yes.
So Miles told you to go be a farm leader, even if you were not part of the farm. That's your testimony?
Yeah.
And which farm was that?
Australian farm.
Which Australia farm? The Himalaya Australia farm.
Yeah.
And you joined that farm, correct? 2020, you recall?
Yeah.
And that farm is based in Sydney. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you left that farm, correct?
Yes.
You left that farm to form your own farm, correct?
Yes.
You wanted to form your own farm, right?
Sorry.
You wanted to form your own farm, correct?
No, Miles asked me.
Miles asked you to go open up a whole new farm in Sydney, Australia?
Yes.
And you did exactly what Miles said. You opened up a farm, correct?
Yes.
And that farm was called the Athena Farm, correct?
Yes.
And according to you, I'm sure it was Miles who told you to call it the Athena Farm, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, sustained. Just ask her questions.
Who picked the name?
I picked the name and approved by Miles.
So you picked the name. He approved it, correct?
Yes.
And according to you, am I correct that if he had not liked the name, you would have changed the name? Correct?
Yes.
And this was in February of 2021, right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember when you formed your own farm?
In 2021.
A follower could join your farm, correct, if he wanted?
Yes.
They could leave your farm if they wanted, right?
Yes.
They could go from your farm to a different farm, correct?
Yes.
People were allowed to move around, correct?
Yes.
You didn't stop them, right?
Stop what?
You didn't stop followers from leaving your farm, correct?
Yes.
Yes, you stopped them or you allowed them to.
I don't stop them.
You did not stop them, right?
Yeah.
Now, you testified about the translator group. You were supervising about 100 people at one point, correct?
Yes.
And of these 100 people, when they wanted to leave you or your group, they could also leave. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you didn't stop them either, right?
Yes.
Because they were all volunteers?
Yes.
And you testified at some point yesterday about something called the blacklist, correct?
Yes.
And you testified that you were on a blacklist if you criticized Miles, right?
Sorry.
You testified on direct that if you dare to criticize Miles, you would be put on a blacklist, correct?
Miles will tell us who go to the blacklist.
Miles authorized who was put on the blacklist?
Yes.
And he circulated this blacklist to you, right? How many people were on this blacklist?
I don't know.
10 people, 30 people, 100 people?
More than 10.
Less than 100?
I don't remember.
There was no blacklist that was ever circulated, correct?
It's on the Gov't.
It's on Gov't posted, right?
Yes.
But that's not a blacklist. That's the name you're using, right?
No, that's blacklist account.
It's a blacklist account?
Yeah, everyone can see it. It's public.
That account, anyone can put in a name, correct? Anyone can put a name onto that blacklist, correct?
No.
No?
Only approved by Miles.
I didn't ask you if it was approved by Miles, ma'am. I asked you if anyone could put in a name on that list.
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to the commentary.
The court said, are you asking whether anyone could add a name to the list?
Ms. Schrofa said, yes.
The court said, you can answer that question.
No, not anyone.
Not anyone?
Yeah.
Your testimony is only Miles runs the Gov't account to add the name?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, overruled.
Can you say it again?
Your testimony is that only Miles can add a name onto the black list on the Gov't account. Is that your testimony?
Approved by Miles.
Ma'am, you understand the difference between doing something and someone approving something. Two different things, right?
Alliance will add.
My question is, Other people were allowed to and did put in names on any list on Gov't, correct?
Alliance has people in charge. There's the people in charge.
Right.
This blacklist.
And it's not just Milesgwa, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, she can't finish her answer, Your Honor.
Ms. Schrofa said, I can't hear her, frankly. I don't know when she's finished.
The court said, if you'll speak up, please.
People in Alliance who in charge of blacklist will post on this Twitter account.
Getter is like Twitter, correct?
Yes.
People would post, correct, just like on Twitter, correct?
Yes.
And people would respond, correct?
Yes.
You did not get any actual list of a blacklist from Milesgwa, correct? In your WhatsApp messages group. Milesgwa never sent you a list and said, this is my blacklist set of people, correct?
He would say.
Listen to the question.
He would say put this person into that blacklist.
My question to you was, and let me try again, Mr. Gwa never sent you a list saying these are the names on my blacklist, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, she's answered the question, Your Honor.
The court said, you may answer.
Please say it again.
All right. Let's try it again. He sent you many documents on the WhatsApp group, correct?
Yes.
He sent you document to translate, correct?
Yes.
Documents to read, correct?
Yes.
He never sent you a document called the blacklist, correct?
He sent a name of this blacklist.
Just one name?
Not just one. Anyone he thinks should go to blacklist, he sent their name.
Okay. So on a given day, he would say this person should be on a blacklist because he criticized the alliance. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But he never sent you a list, right?
Yeah.
No, right?
No.
Okay. That's all I was asking. You also testified on direct about protests, correct?
Yes.
And you testified that you did not personally participate in any protest yourself, correct?
Yes.
You never went, right?
Yes.
You never went because you never wanted anybody to know your face, correct? Yes or no?
No.
Continued on next page. By Ms. Schrofa.
The protests that you were asked about yesterday, they occurred in the United States, correct?
Sorry. Which protest you refer to?
The protests you testified about, ma'am, just yesterday. Do you remember that?
There's many we mentioned.
There were many protests mentioned yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with the protest they showed you the photo about, okay? I will pull up the photo for you. Ms. Schrofa said, can we show her the exhibit, please? I'll start anyway. You talked about 2 protests yesterday, correct? You remember that or no?
No, more than 2. Many.
I'm sorry?
Many, not more than 2.
You said there were many protests, correct?
Yeah.
And then you talked specifically about 2 of them. Do you recall that?
Which one?
You discussed in your direct testimony yesterday a protest where people were smashing or punching each other in the face, correct? You remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember, you said somebody was punched in the eye, correct?
Yes.
And then you testified on direct that Milesgwa said, good job, correct?
Yes.
About the punch, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you were not at these protests, correct? Because you were in Australia, right?
Yes.
And you were there along with your husband and daughter, correct?
No. We were watching the broadcast.
Okay. But you were watching the broadcast of that protest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you followed that broadcast, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you watched the protest as it was happening live, correct?
Yes.
Because you were part of the protest at that time, correct?
I'm not part of that protest.
But you were watching it, right?
Yeah.
And by watching it, you're supporting it, correct?
Yes.
So you were part of the protest? Is it fair to say, ma'am, if you don't support something, you don't watch it?
I watch it because it's Alliance broadcast.
But the Alliance is not watching what you're doing in your home in Australia, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to relevance.
The court said, sustained.
Nobody's forcing you to watch the broadcast, right? You're in your home in Australia?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form.
The court said, sustained.
Where were you watching the broadcast from?
From Australia.
We're in Australia.
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to the line of questioning about where she lives, Your Honor.
The court said, we don't need the specifics about that.
Nobody's asking for an address, ma'am. Just where?
In Australia.
Mr. Ferguson said, why is it relevant where in Australia, Your Honor?
The court said, were you in your home?
The witness said, I don't remember.
Okay, but you remember watching the protest, right?
Yeah.
And you watched the violence in the protest, correct?
Yes.
And you continued to watch more protests even after seeing the violence, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you kept following the protests even if they were violent, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and those protests occurred in the United States, right?
Yes.
Okay, and as a result of those protests, you remember that the Rule of Law Foundation took certain steps, correct? Let me see, do you remember that or no?
Can you say it again? Rule of law what?
Took certain steps, correct? They did certain things to make sure that that didn't happen again, right? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, let me show you something that might refresh your recollection. Ms. Strofa said, may I approach, Your Honor?
The court said you may.
Ms. Strofa said, can you just pull it up for her actually? It's DX 60511. Would you take a look at the document for me, please?
Yes.
Ms. Strofa said, and if I could just have the jury doesn't have it, right? Okay. And if you could just look at the top, 4th and 5th line. It's from the words, if you.
Sorry. I can't hear. Which line?
They're going to highlight it for you, but it says, if you. It's the second line of the second paragraph at the end, on the right side.
Yes.
Okay. Now do you recognize this document, the logo on the top of the document?
I don't remember.
I didn't ask you if you remembered. I asked you if you recognized. Do you recognize this document? The logo on the top?
Yes.
Ms. Strofa said, okay. And if you could just show her the bottom of the document. Okay. And right up there before that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see that signature block?
Yes.
Do you recognize this document?
I don't remember.
I know you don't remember. My question is, do you recognize it?
I don't recognize.
Okay. And does this document help refresh your recollection that the Rule of Law put out a memo that said, if you demonstrate?
Mr. Ferguson said, she can't read from a document not in evidence, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained.
Does this refresh your recollection that the Rule of Law did something about the violence at the pro?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
Ms. Strofa said, that was.
The court said, I'll allow the question.
Does this document, the paragraph that is before you, refresh your recollection that the Rule of Law Foundation took steps to ensure that there was no more violence at protests? Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Okay. So there was violence and then the Rule of Law said, you cannot do that anymore, correct?
Yes.
And according to you, Miles Guo runs the Rule of Law Foundation, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, I think perhaps we can take the document down. She maybe thinks she's being asked about the document.
The court said, are you finished with the document?
Ms. Strofa said, I'm happy to have it taken down. According to you, Miles Guo ran Rule of Law, right?
He told us what to do, some issues in Rule of Law.
Okay, so he told you to make sure and stop the violence at the protest, correct?
I don't know what running means.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure, running the Rule of Law. What do you mean running it?
You said he was in charge of the Rule of Law Foundation, right?
I didn't say that.
You said he made you director, correct?
Yes.
You said everybody listens to only Miles Guo, correct?
Yes.
And people only do what Miles Guo tells them to do, correct?
Yes.
So when Miles Guo said stop the violence, everybody stopped the violence, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, overruled.
Yes or no?
This not Miles Guo said.
So this time it's not Miles Guo speaking.
This document said.
I'm sorry?
Document said.
But the document is from Rule of Law Foundation, correct?
Yeah.
And he is able to do anything he wants under Rule of Law Foundation, according to your testimony yesterday.
But I don't know about this document.
Okay, we'll move on. Let me direct your attention to the protest from the SEC that you testified to yesterday, okay? Remember that?
Yes.
That was also because of Miles Guo, according to you, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said at that time, that the SEC was infiltrated by the CCP, correct?
Yeah, that's Miles Guo said.
Right. And you only believed that because Miles Guo said that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have an understanding whether Miles Guo believed that the SEC had been infiltrated by the CCP?
I'm sorry. Please say it again.
Did you have an understanding that Miles Guo himself believed that the SEC had been infiltrated by the CCP, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection. It sounds like she's testifying.
The court said, are you asking whether she believed that Mr. Guo believed that the CCP had infiltrated the SEC?
Ms. Schrofa said, I'm asking her understanding. Yes, Your Honor, exactly.
The court said you can answer.
I believe.
Okay. And he had broadcasted that he had in fact been targeted, correct?
I'm not sure what's the issue you're talking about?
He broadcasted that he was targeted by Broidy, correct?
Yes.
He broadcasted that he had been targeted by George Higginbotham, correct?
Yes.
And he broadcasted that he had been targeted by the United States government, correct?
Yes.
And that was only because people like Broidy and Higginbotham were working for the CCP and trying to get him hurt through the United States, correct?
I don't know.
But you watched the broadcast where he said that, correct?
Yeah.
And you knew that George Higginbotham had been convicted of doing such things, correct?
I don't know.
And you didn't know?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you know that he was convicted of acting as an agent of China?
That's Miles Guo said.
Okay. And Miles Guo said that Higginbotham had tried to get Trump to send him back to China, correct?
Yes.
And he said that you heard it and you believed it, correct?
Yes.
Do you know who George Higginbotham is?
I don't know.
Do you know who Broidy is?
I don't know.
Okay. Now you've talked many times about this concept called the Alliance, correct?
Yes.
And the Alliance had meetings, right?
Yes.
And where were these meetings?
Where?
Yeah.
Online.
Online. What format did they use? I'll rephrase that. That might be a difficult question for you. How were the meetings conducted on WebEx, Zoom, which one?
WebEx.
On WebEx, correct? And you participated in them from Australia, correct?
Yes.
And there was a concern that those meetings could be hacked, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay. And when you participated in those meetings, did you ever show your face or did you use an avatar of Mulan, like from the movie?
Yes, not show the face.
So you took the movie photo of Mulan, right?
Yeah.
And when everybody was participating in that WebEx, your square was the avatar of Mulan, correct?
Everyone is like that.
No, not Mr. Guo, right? Everyone.
Except Miles Guo.
How about Long Island David?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, right? Not all the time, right?
Yeah.
There were people who showed their face, right?
Yeah.
Sarah Wei showed her face, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not true that everybody used an avatar, correct? I'll move on. The Himalaya Alliance had meetings, correct?
Yes.
All the leaders came to the meetings if they could, correct?
Yes.
These meetings, they had conversations about what to do next as part of the alliance, correct?
Yes.
And people voted on those issues, right?
No.
There was no vote?
No.
So if 5 people wanted to do something and 6 people didn't want to do it, what would happen?
Miles would decide.
But Miles Guo wasn't at all the meetings.
Final decision, Miles Guo decide.
So,
We would report to Miles Guo.
I'm sorry?
We would report to Miles Guo.
You would report to Miles Guo even if it was a unanimous agreement that everybody should do something. That's your testimony?
Sorry. Can you say it again?
If everybody agreed to do something, even if everybody agreed, you would still go to Miles Guo. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay.
Approved by final decision, approved by Miles Guo.
Okay. I understand approved by Miles Guo. You keep saying that. My question to you was there a decision-making process within the alliance?
No.
Okay. So there was no decision-making process. Miles Guo decided everything. But the alliance leaders would have long meetings to do nothing but give the information to Miles Guo?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form. She's testifying.
The court said, sustained.
All the farm leaders went to these meetings, right?
Yes.
During the meeting, the farm loan program was discussed, correct?
Yes.
They talked about what the program consisted of, correct?
Sorry.
The farm leaders discussed the program, correct?
Yeah.
How many times did the farm leaders discuss the farm loans program?
I don't remember.
5 times?
I don't remember.
And Miles Guo wasn't at all of those meetings, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember a single meeting when Miles Guo was present?
Yes.
Okay. And when Miles Guo was present in the meeting, you tell me if I'm wrong, all the farm leaders talked with each other and with Mr. Guo, correct?
Yes.
And you were part of that group, correct?
Yes.
Sometimes you wanted him to do something or you wanted the group to do something and others said no, correct? You wanted more money for your farm, other people said no, correct?
No, never.
No, never? Nobody ever said no to you, right?
No, I never asked.
You never asked?
To do something, yeah.
The court said, you have to let her answer. Go ahead.
I never asked from me to do something, no, not from me.
As the farm leader, you never asked for anything at all in the alliance meetings? That's your testimony?
Ask what?
Anything. You had a group that you were responsible for, your followers, right?
Yes.
Each farm leader had people who were following that farm, correct?
Yeah.
The farm leader is the one who speaks for them at these meetings, correct?
Yes.
So is it your testimony that you never spoke up for any of the followers in your farm?
No.
No, that's not your testimony?
I don't remember.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about what you testified to yesterday, the Iron Blood Group, okay?
Yeah.
And at one point the Iron Blood Group was about 20 people, correct?
Yes.
And then it grew, correct? Could you keep your voice up for me, please?
Yes.
Okay, that's the only way the jury can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. And starting in March of 2021, you were in that group, correct?
April 2021.
So you recall it wasn't March, but it was April, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the Iron Blood Group had meetings, correct?
Yes.
And in the Iron Blood Group itself, one person had one vote. Is that right?
No.
So did one person have more than one vote or nobody had any votes?
No votes.
No votes.
We just do what Miles Guo told us.
You just do what Miles Guo tells you, correct?
Yeah.
And even though Miles Guo was going to do whatever he wanted to do, everybody had these very long meetings, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, object to form.
The court said, sustained.
Did you have long meetings as part of the Iron Blood Group?
Yes.
People came, correct?
Yes.
People talked in the Iron Blood Group meetings, correct?
Yes.
People raised issues in the meetings, correct?
Yes.
People raised issues about personnel issues, right?
What issue?
Personnel. Human resources, personnel.
Yes.
In fact, one of the issues that was raised was your inability to get along with people in the Iron Blood Group, correct?
No.
Well, you were thrown out of the iron blood group for a while, right?
Yes.
And then they let you back in, right? They gave you a timeout.
Yes.
Okay. And they gave you a timeout because other people in the iron blood group complained about you. Correct?
No. That's wrong. Because Miles Guo said something broadcast, I not agree.
So Miles Guo said something in the broadcast, you didn't agree?
Yeah.
So he threw you out of the iron blood group? Is that your testimony?
No. I left by myself.
Excuse me?
I left by myself.
You resigned from the iron blood group. You knew how to resign from a group that he had complete control over, correct?
Yeah.
You knew how to walk away, correct?
Yeah.
And in fact, you did walk away, correct?
Yeah.
So when you wanted to walk away, you could, correct?
Yeah.
Nobody forced you to come back to the iron blood group, right?
No.
Okay.
No, sorry.
Okay.
They add me back.
They asked you back? You could have said no, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, the witness said add, not asked.
The court said, I'm sorry. What did you say? Did you say they asked?
The witness said, add me back to that group. They add me. Miles Guo add me back to that group. By Ms. Schrofa.
And you could have said no, right? Just like you said no the first time when you left? You could have changed your phone number, correct?
Yes.
You could have left and not downloaded the WhatsApp application on your iPhone, correct?
Yes.
You could have just swiped and deleted WhatsApp from your phone, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about these refunds that you testified about yesterday, right? You remember that?
Yes.
You testified about people on the farms wanting refunds, correct? On your farm. One of the people wanted a refund on G-Clubs, right?
Yes.
And you decided, even though Miles Guo said no, to give him the refund anyway, correct?
Yes.
And you decided it was different because he was your follower, correct?
Not my follower, because he contributed a lot.
According to you, he contributed a lot, correct?
Yes.
And you wanted to make sure he was okay, correct?
Yes.
And you wanted to make sure he was okay even though Miles Guo was telling you no, correct?
Yes.
And you did it anyway, correct?
Yes.
And so you're capable of doing things Miles Guo tells you not to do, correct?
It depends.
Depends, right? Now let's talk about the money you got, okay? You testified that in July of 2021, the Alliance paid you 10 grand a month, correct?
Yes. Not Alliance. The Rule of Law Foundation.
The Rule of Law Foundation paid you 10 grand, right?
Yes.
And the Rule of Law Foundation paid you 10 grand because you were part of the IBG group, right?
Yes.
When you were out of the IBG group, you got 5 grand, correct?
Yes.
And beginning in August or September, you tell me. 'Cause I don't know the date, you were paid by the Alliance as well. Is that correct?
Which time? What time?
September or August of 2022.
Yes.
You were paid in H-coin, correct?
Yes.
1,500 H-coins a month, correct?
Yes.
And other farm leaders got less than that, correct?
Yeah, farm leader and the iron blood group's different, yeah.
Ms. Schrofa said, I could not hear her, Your Honor. I apologize.
Iron blood group is 1,000 H-coin, farm leader.
I can't.
Iron blood group is 1,000, receiving 1,000 H-coin, and the other farm leaders received 500 H-coin. And the farm CEO received from 300 H-coin.
You don't mean Iron Blood Group received that H-coin, you mean if you were a member of Iron Blood Group. You received that H-coin, right?
Yes.
Okay. So all totaled, because you were a farm leader, because you were in the Iron Blood Group, and because of whatever else you did, you got a total of 1,500 H-coins a month, correct?
Yes.
And that is in addition to the 10 grand you also got, correct?
No.
You stopped getting the 10 grand from the Rule of Law Foundation?
Yes. It's only for 1 year.
Right. You got it for the whole year, and during that time you got both, correct?
No. Only coin.
For 1 year, Rule of Law Foundation paid you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then H-Coin paid you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it is your testimony now, because I just want to make sure it's clear the two did not overlap. According to you, is that?
No overlap.
Okay. So when you were paid the 1,500 H coins, you would then immediately convert it into the H dollar. Correct?
No.
You didn't convert it to the H dollar?
No.
What did you do with the coins?
Just keep there, because that time Himalaya exchange is not working. You can't redeem the money.
I could not hear you. I'm sorry.
Himalaya exchange that time stopped working, you can't redeem the money from it.
Right. But that was at some point. Before that, you could redeem it, correct?
No. That's after. We got our H coin already.
Right.
The Himalaya exchange can't redeem the money out.
Right. And then after that, you could redeem it, correct?
No.
You could never redeem your H coin, is that?
No.
You have to let me finish, ma'am.
Until now, it can't.
Okay. You could not redeem your H coin, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, we've covered this. Asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
Ma'am, my question to you is whether you were able to convert, not redeem.
Mr. Ferguson said, Same objection.
The court said, you can use the new word convert. Go ahead.
If you could convert your H coin into HDO without redeeming, you could do that, correct?
Yes.
And you did that, right?
I did some.
You did some, correct?
Yeah.
And you decided how much to convert. That was your decision, correct?
Yes.
You didn't have to check that one with Miles Gua, correct?
Yes.
Correct? Yes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This Miles Gua asked every farm leader and Iron Blood Group member have to create their job and working full-time for Alliance. That's the reason I have to create my job to work for the Alliance as Iron Blood Group.
Ms. Shrofa said, I move to strike. There was no question. But thank you for keeping your voice up.
Mr. Ferguson said, It's responsive to the line of questioning, actually, Your Honor.
Ms. Shrofa said, there was no question pending.
The court said, the answer is stricken.
By Ms. Shrofa.
There came a point when you took $30,000 out of the Himalaya exchange. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you took that $30,000 and then you put that $30,000 into your own bank account, correct?
Yes.
And there was nothing wrong with that because that was yours to take, correct?
Yes.
And you made that decision without Miles Gua, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now the H coin itself was launched in November of 2021, correct?
Yes.
And the pre-launch offering of that coin was at 10 cents a coin, is that correct?
Yes.
And the amount of coins you could get, you correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, depended on the contributions you had made to the movement, correct?
And your investment and donation, everything together.
I hadn't gotten there, ma'am. So one factor was the work you did for the movement, correct?
Yes.
The second factor was how much you had invested, correct?
Yes.
The third factor was what type of work and volunteering you did, correct?
Donation.
Okay. There was also donations, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But somebody who volunteered 30 hours would be getting less coins than somebody who volunteered 100 hours. Correct?
I don't know.
Okay. And you were able to purchase $6,000 worth of H coin at 10 cents a coin, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the farms themselves also received H coin, correct?
No.
They never received any. Farm leaders did not receive H coin to distribute to their farm people.
No.
So there was no distribution to fellow fighters at all. That's your testimony.
That's from Rule of Law Foundation.
Okay.
Farm get grant from Rule of Law Foundation.
Right. The farm got the grant, and then they passed it on to the people within their farm, correct?
Yes.
That was up to the discretion of the farm leaders, such as you, correct?
Sorry.
That was up to the discretion of the farm leaders, such as you, correct?
No. We were approved by rule of law.
I understand. But you decided how to allocate it, correct?
No.
Okay. So rule of law decided what each fellow fighter would get. That's your testimony?
But in the farm, not I decide. We have the rule in our farm, not I decide.
But you were the farm leader, right?
Not decided by myself. They had to meet certain rules.
Okay. Tell us the rules. Who did you consult with about these rules?
My farm have group leaders. We discussion all the rules.
Okay. You picked the group leaders, right?
Yeah.
Because you were the leader.
Yeah.
Right. So you discussed these issues with the people you picked, correct?
Not I picked. Some is voluntarily want to be the group leader.
Right. But you picked which volunteer to pick. If there were 10 volunteers and you could only have 5, you chose the 5, right?
Not I choose. I accept.
So if everybody in the farm wanted to be your second in command, you would accept everybody.
Sorry? Can you say it again?
Sure. You were the farm leader?
Yes.
You picked who would be your group assistant, correct? You could choose.
Not I pick.
Okay.
If someone waiting to that position, you accept.
Right. But what if 10 people wanted one position? Who would choose?
Never happened.
Nobody volunteered. Never more than one person volunteered for any position in your group.
No. No.
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, overruled.
Okay. You also testified yesterday about G clubs and G fashion, correct?
Yes.
And you testified about the G club's memberships, correct?
Yes.
And you testified that it entitled you to a discount in G fashion, right?
Yes.
Did you use that discount?
Yes.
Did you appreciate G fashion or you didn't like it?
Before, I like it, but now, I don't like it.
Okay. Well, we understand. But did you like it back then?
Yes.
Okay. Did you use it?
Yes.
And did you feel that that was a benefit conferred upon you?
Yes.
Okay. Did there come a time, Ms. Lee, when you became aware that there were logistical issues with the G Club's membership?
I don't understand. What do you mean logistic issue?
There were people who complained that they'd applied for the G Clubs and they were still waiting for approval. Correct?
Yes.
That was mainly because of a problem with Crane, correct? You testified about Crane also, correct?
I don't know the reason.
I cannot hear you.
I don't know the reason.
Okay. So there were some things you just didn't know, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now on direct testimony, you also talked about something called AIAI, correct?
Yes.
What does AIAI stand for?
I don't know. That's Miles Gw't said, the new platform's name.
You don't know?
I don't know.
All you know is Miles Gw't said it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you testified on direct that, did you watch a broadcast about AIAI?
Yeah, he said in the broadcast.
No. My question to you is, was there a broadcast? I take that back. Could you repeat your answer for me? He said that in a broadcast. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. And that broadcast, you translated it?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. And do you have a copy of that broadcast where he talks about AIAI?
You mean I have a copy now or what?
Sure. Do you have a copy? Did you send it?
No.
No, not now, but you have a copy, right?
I don't remember.
Did you give a copy to the prosecutors?
I don't remember.
Do you remember ever translating it?
Translating which one?
Anything about AIAI.
I don't remember.
And you don't even know if there is a video of this AIAI, right?
No, I watched the live broadcast.
You watched a live broadcast, correct?
Yes.
But every live broadcast he ever made was saved, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you have it, right?
I don't have right now. I can find it for you.
Did you find it for the prosecutors when you talked to them about AIAI?
I don't remember.
They asked you if you had that broadcast, correct, when you prepared with them.
No.
They did not ask you for a video of AII.
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
They asked you about all of the other broadcasts, correct?
No.
They asked you about at least 8 broadcasts because you testified to them, right?
Yes.
Right. So the one broadcast they did not ask you if you had a video of was AII, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay. You prepared for this testimony here, right?
Yeah. No.
Well, what did you meet with them 13 times for?
I tell them the truth, give them everything.
13 times?
Yes. Not sure. I don't know.
So you met with them all these times just to make sure you were telling the truth, nothing else, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And you were telling the truth about the things you were going to talk about today, correct? The same exact things.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, what else did you prepare for other than Milesgua?
Sorry. Can you say it again?
What other things did you prepare for other than testimony surrounding Milesgua? Let me try it this way.
I don't prepare anything.
You didn't prepare. I didn't ask you if you prepared a document, ma'am. That's not my question. But in any event, you did send the prosecutors a lot of documents, right?
Yes.
You sent them a lot of emails, correct?
Yes.
You sent them a lot of links to many videos, correct?
Yes.
You emailed Mr. Ferguson over here, correct? This man right here?
Yeah.
Okay. And you sent them many links, but not a link of this AII video, correct?
I don't remember.
All right.
Too many videos.
Too many videos, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'll move on. By the way, did they show you a video of AII?
I don't remember.
Ms. Strofa said, okay. Let's pull up, please, GX6114. This document, you were shown this document, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Strofa said, and is it published for the jury? If we could just show her, please, page 2, page 3, page 4. Do you recognize this document, ma'am? You don't recognize it?
I recognize this A15 contract.
You read it, right?
Not everything.
But you read something.
Just first page.
You only read the first page.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the last page?
No.
Okay. What is Ampleforth Capital?
The supporters sent money to this company.
What is that company?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. You collected money from your farm.
No. They can direct send there.
They can direct send there, right?
Yeah.
You had nothing to do with this, right?
Yes.
Okay. The only reason you were able to testify about it is because you reviewed it with Mr. Ferguson. Correct? You can take that.
Can you say it again?
Sure. Mr. Ferguson showed you this document when you two met in his office, correct?
I showed him.
Right. And then you two looked at it together, correct?
Yes.
And then you reviewed it, right?
Not page by page.
Page by page, every other page, you reviewed it with him, right?
Just first page.
Just the first page. Even with Mr. Ferguson, you only looked at the first page.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Do you know if the prosecutor picked or chose which page to show you?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Ms. Strofa said, and if I could just show her the second page, please. You never looked at the second page, right?
I don't remember.
Ms. Strofa said, okay. All right. We can take that down. Now you recall that on direct testimony you were shown documents showing money sent to Abu Dhabi, correct? Do you recall that? You know what? I'll come back to that topic. Let me show you what is in evidence as GX6190T. That's the transcript of a video. Ms. Strofa said, 190, 190. Do you remember testifying about this document?
Yes.
Ms. Strofa said, okay. And if I could just have the first top part made bigger. All right. And on the top left corner, you see how it says U.S. Attorney's Office?
Yes.
That's Mr. Ferguson's office, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. And you don't know if he works for the U.S. Attorney's Office?
I don't know.
Who do you think he is? What is your understanding about Mr. Ferguson?
Prosecutor.
Okay. So you know he's a prosecutor on this case, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And he showed you this document, right?
Yes.
Okay. And he pointed you to this issue of the incentive mechanism, correct? You see that language?
Yes.
Okay. And then below that, it explains what the incentive is, correct?
Yes.
And it says, for anyone who it should say brings, but for anyone who bring new fellow fighters in, there will be incentive for them, correct?
Yes.
There are awards of 3.5%, 5.5%, and 7.5%, correct?
Yes.
This is like refer a friend, get a reward, correct?
Yes.
Many companies do that, correct? If you refer a friend, you get a discount, right?
But this not really happen.
I didn't ask you that question, but if you'd like to volunteer it, that's okay. But my question was, this incentive program is no different than any other incentive program, correct?
I don't know.
Are you familiar with incentive programs in general?
No.
There are no incentive programs in Australia.
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
I don't know.
The court said, sustained.
Ms. Schrofa said, you can take that down. Now let me show you what is marked as Government Exhibit 6101. Ms. Lee, on direct testimony, you were. Ms. Schrofa said, it's okay. You can take that down. I'll come back to it. Ms. Lee, on direct testimony, you were asked about a place called Mawa, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you testified to the effect of. Ms. Schrofa said, actually, let me see if I can pull up that document for you. It's GX29, 629. You recall being shown this document and testifying about it, correct?
Yes.
I haven't shown you the document yet. Hold on. Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, apparently we're having some kind of system problem. I apologize. The jurors don't have it. Your Honor.
The court said, it's not on the jurors' screens. Now is it there?
The juror said, no.
The court said, all right. So can you move to a different question?
Ms. Schrofa said, I'll come back to this.
By Ms. Schrofa.
And I'm going to try and ask you some questions without the document in front of you.
The juror said, it's there.
Ms. Schrofa said, oh, now it is? Okay. All right. Here it is. Could you take a look at this document? You testified about this particular document, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it says, Dear Anrin, correct?
Yes.
And Anrin, as you testified, is Aaron Mitchell, correct?
Yes.
And who's Aaron Mitchell? Could you keep your voice up?
Okay. Miles was lawyer.
Ms. Schrofa said, okay. Is the document? It's not back on? It's off again? Okay. I'll do it without. Your Honor. May I just continue without the document?
The court said, you may attempt to do that. Go ahead.
Ms. Schrofa said, okay.
By Ms. Schrofa.
You remember testifying about this document, right? Ms. Schrofa said, can somebody give her a hard copy?
The court said, is there a question?
Ms. Schrofa said, okay. And Aaron Mitchell was also the lawyer for G-Clubs, correct?
I don't know.
So you only know that he was the lawyer for Miles Gov't, but you don't know if he was the lawyer for G-Clubs.
Yes.
Okay. And have you met Aaron Mitchell?
No.
Have you been in meetings with Aaron Mitchell?
No.
Okay. And so how do you know that he is Miles Govt's lawyer?
He called me once.
So he called you once, and from that.
And he also gave me translation task.
Okay. He gave you translation tasks that included G-Clubs, correct?
I don't remember.
You don't remember.
No.
Okay. So let's just stay with this document because you remember the document, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the document before you is GX629, right?
Sorry. What's the number?
It's okay. 29 at the bottom. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And the document talks about a property, correct? It says about the property today, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it talks about where we can host our family to live there, comma, correct?
Yes.
Or sometimes we may also convert it to host our club members, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And according to you, when Miles was talking in this document and referring to family, he only means his own personal family, right?
Yes.
Not the big family of the movement that you testified to, correct?
Yes.
Because you testified on direct that the reason he kept calling you Sister Milan is because he wanted you to feel part of the family, correct?
Yes.
And that was a way you said of him controlling you, correct?
Yes.
That was your testimony, right?
Yes.
But this time when he's saying family, he's excluding you in your mind, correct?
Yes, that's his own family.
Okay, right. That's what you believe is his own family he's talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, even though he says our family, right?
Yes.
It doesn't say, I can host my family, correct? Do you see that right there? Where we can host our family. He doesn't say my family, right? Our family.
That's still his family.
That's according to you, right? But the word is our.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move to the next line, correct? And then he says, I want to reiterate the following key points about this offer, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then it says, please contact William, correct?
Yes.
Okay, who is William?
William J.E.
And what is William J.E. in charge of?
I don't know.
Okay, so let's go to the next page. He says the house is more than 100 years, correct? And if we could go to the next page, please. Do you see number 5?
Yeah.
It talks about renovation projects subject to our budget approval, correct?
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't say my budget approval, right? I'll move on. Ms. Strofa said, so let's just keep going down. And, I'm sorry. Too far. Okay. And you see here, it says it talks about getting permits from the government, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then he talks about it being important to coordinate with the government for permits, correct? Under paragraph B, right?
Yes.
Ms. Strofa said, okay, let's keep going down. Now he's complaining about the light fixtures in the old home, right?
Yes.
He said they're too old, right?
Yes.
Okay. And this has to assume that somebody has done a home inspection, right? 'Cause he's talking particularly about lamps?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, sustained.
Okay. Then it talks, indeed, look at paragraph D.
Yes.
Right? Ms. Strofa said, keep going down. Keep going down. And paragraph 6. Hold on. There we go. Okay. It says, the last and most serious thing is that he and the agent must sign to ensure that they must always keep a legal commitment to this transaction. Never disclose any information to any second or third party, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And keep it absolutely confidential, including the right to judicial protection that they cannot disclose any information about this deal, even when testifying in court. Correct?
Yes.
Did you understand what he's talking about over there?
I don't understand.
Okay. And then he says, since this house has a long history, right?
Yes.
He's talking about keeping the relationship intact, correct?
Yes.
Because there is a commitment to the history of the building itself, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you keep going down, right? And he talks about this price and then says, thank you very much, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you? Ms. Strofa said, is that the end of the document? Thank you. And you translated that document for Miles Gwa, correct?
Yes.
And you got not a voice message with Miles Gwa's voice with these words. You actually got a document to translate, correct?
No. His voice message.
Okay. So let's see the Chinese version of this document, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it your testimony that you created the Chinese version of this document?
Sorry.
Ms. Schrofa said, "Could somebody show it to her?" "Thank you, Ms. Loftus. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. The Mandarin version of it." "Okay. And this is the document created by whom?"
Me.
"So you took what he was saying, according to you, and you made this document out in Mandarin, correct?"
Yes.
"Okay. And then from Mandarin, you translated it into English, correct?"
Yes.
"And who did you send the English version to?"
Miles Gwa.
"So you sent the English version back to Miles Gwa and not to Aaron Mitchell, even though it's addressed to Aaron Mitchell."
Yes, I sent back to Miles Gwa.
"And when you sent it back to Miles Gwa, you testified that you didn't know what property he's talking about, right?"
At that time, yes.
"Correct. You don't know what property he's talking about, correct?"
Yes.
"Okay. And at that time you knew Miles Gwa to be looking for property all over the world, correct?"
I don't know.
"You don't know?"
I don't know.
"Okay. So you didn't know if he was looking for property anyplace else, correct?"
No.
"Okay. And you did not know if he was looking for a property."
Mr. Ferguson said, "Objection." Asked and answered.
The court said, "We haven't heard the question yet."
Ms. Schrofa said, "It's all right, Your Honor. You testified that as far as you were concerned, you were part of his inner circle, correct?"
I don't know. What do you mean, inner circle?
"Well, you said that everything Miles Gwa told you is secret, right?"
Yes.
"Anything at all that he told you is secret, correct?"
Yes.
"So if he wanted to tell you about this home, there would be no issue, right? He would just share the secret with you, right, according to you?"
He wanted me to translate this.
"Right. All he wanted you to do was translate it, right?"
Yes.
"He never discussed the document with you, right?"
No.
"He never talked about the property with you, correct?"
No, no.
"He didn't tell you whether or not it was for or not a secret base, right? He didn't tell you anything?"
No, right.
"So everything that you testified to yesterday was only about what is on this document, correct?"
Yes.
"And of course you reviewed this document with Mr. Ferguson in his office, correct?"
Yes.
"Okay. How many times?"
I don't remember.
"Did Mr. Ferguson ask you about this phrase where it says, to host club members? Did you discuss that phrase with him?"
I don't remember.
"Did you discuss the phrase family fund with him?"
Yes.
"Okay. So you remember discussing that with him, right?"
Yes.
"And did you discuss with him the need for permits on this place?"
I don't remember.
"Okay. So Mr. Ferguson focused on the family fund part of this document, correct?"
I don't know.
"Okay." Ms. Schrofa said, "Your Honor, may I just have 1 second?"
The court said yes.
Ms. Schrofa said, "Thank you, Your Honor." "I'm sorry, Your Honor. We're obliged to Ms. Loftus for helping us out. May I work with her for just 1 moment?" 101, sorry. 6.
By Ms. Schrofa.
You recall testifying about this email yesterday, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you are one of the people on this email chain, correct?
Yes.
And the email chain is from a person named Alex Lippman, correct?
Yes.
And could you tell us who is Alex Lippman?
Yvette Wang's lawyer.
Okay. And you know he is Yvette Wang's lawyer, how? How do you know that?
Brother Island Chang Dao told me.
Who?
Brother Island Chang Dao told me.
Okay. And is he also known as Long Island David?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Schrofa said, "I guess we can't pull up the defense exhibit, but that's okay. I'll keep going." And the second person on the email chain, right?
Yeah.
It says to, correct? It's just. Ms. Schrofa said, "If the email addresses could be enlarged and no, the top part, please." Okay. And the email is to Sari B. Placona, correct?
Yes.
And as far as you know, that's also a lawyer, correct?
Yes.
And Anthony Sadono, correct?
Yes.
Also a lawyer, right?
I don't know.
Well, let's scroll down and let's look at the name of the law firm. Ms. Schrofa said, right here at the bottom, under Sari B. Placona, if we could make that larger. Right? It's at msbnj.com, correct?
Yes.
And MSB is McManamon, Scotland and Bauman.com, right?
I don't know.
Well, look at it right there. MSB. MSB.
I don't know what's that stand for.
Okay, let's just go back to the email addresses. So you have Jeremy Temkin, right? That one, it's clear. Right, just from the reading, maglaw, that's law, right? .com?
Yeah.
Okay, Raymond Moss, correct?
Yeah.
Maglaw.com, correct?
Yeah.
So from those two addresses, you can conclude it's a law firm, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, we just object to the relevance and the court's prior ruling.
The court said you may answer.
Ms. Shrofa said, I'll move on. The next one is priyachaudhrylaw.com, correct?
Yeah.
The next email address is virtlawis.com, correct?
Yes.
The next one is weddelaw.com, correct?
Yeah.
And the final one is also weddelaw.com, correct?
Yeah.
So Mr. Lippman, a lawyer, is emailing you and several other lawyers with a document attached, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, May we have a brief sidebar, Your Honor?
The court said yes.
At the sidebar.
Mr. Ferguson said, The objection to relevance is that the defendant has not put forward any advice of counsel defense. As Your Honor knows, he was required to notice it. He's not putting forward that defense. Meaning the presence of attorneys is not relevant in this case. And that's exactly the argument they seem to be teeing up with this line of questioning. If we continue down this road, I think it's appropriate that Your Honor instruct the jury that the defendant has not and indeed cannot raise any defense on the advice of counsel. Make it clear that presence of counsel, there's no, suggestion that the defendant did what he did because lawyers were around. That's exactly the... we raised this in pretrial filings, Your Honor.
The court said, what's the reason for bringing up these lawyers?
Mr. Kamraju said, just that it's not hidden from anyone, Your Honor.
Ms. Shrofa said, it's not hidden from anyone. If the Wall Street Journal...
Mr. Ferguson said, on the email chain, what does it matter if they're lawyers?
Ms. Shrofa said, before you cut me off, I was going to say, if the email had been sent to the Wall Street Journal, I would bring that out also.
Mr. Ferguson said, that makes no sense.
The court said, what is the purpose for calling her attention to the fact that these are lawyers?
Ms. Shrofa said, because there's nothing, we're basically saying that this email was openly sent. Just exactly the way they called out each document, each line. We're not invoking an advice of counsel defense. Our client's not even involved in this email.
Mr. Ferguson said, I know they're not. But they're misleading the jury that there's something proper here because there's lawyers involved.
Ms. Shrofa said, but...
Mr. Ferguson said, excuse me, Ms. Schroff. Excuse me, Ms. Schroff. If they want to ask questions like, you're one of 8 people on this email chain, that's fine, but going through one by one, oh, that's a lawyer. That's a lawyer. That's clearly contradictory to the court's ruling about the presence of counsel and being allowed to elicit this sort of thing. The court should instruct the jury that there is no advice of counsel defense. And they cannot make an advice of counsel defense.
Mr. Kamraju said, my understanding from the court's ruling is that we were able to point out the existence of lawyers, but we were not allowed to argue that the lawyer did anything. Or highlight Mr. Gua's involvement with lawyers, but I didn't think we were precluded from referencing lawyers.
The court said, so I want to go back to my decision, just to refresh my recollection, and we'll discuss it when we return. We'll take our break now.
Mr. Kamraju said, okay, Your Honor.
Ms. Shrofa said, thank you.
In open court.
The court said, members of the jury, it's 11:29. I'm going to break. Remember not to discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Don't permit anyone to discuss it in your presence. Don't watch, listen to, or read anything about anything that has to do with this case.
Jury not present.
The court said, Ms. Lee, you may step down. You may step out. Remember not to discuss your testimony.
Witness not present.
The court said, we'll return at noon.
Luncheon recess.